Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And first of all, thank you so much to anyone who watched or commented on my previous video. I was definitely not expecting so many people to start taking interest on this whole channel thing. I genuinely thought that maybe 4 or 5 friends from Instagram would come over and maybe say hi, but I definitely did not expect so many people to get in touch with me, and quite honestly, I wanted to dig a hole, hide in it, and pretend like this whole thing never happened. But you guys were so kind and cute and encouraging to me in the comments that after a little bit of a recovery time, I am back again. And yeah, still getting used to it, but thank you also so much for your kind and welcoming words. It really means a lot to me. Anyway, for today, I want to walk through my setup of my 2026 Hobonichi Weeks Mega. This is going to be my one and only planner. If you've seen the previous video, I talked about how I want to separate journaling from planning a little bit more in the next year. So this is kind of the functional setup, maybe a little bit of doodling, a little bit of deco, but its primary purpose is to keep me on track and remind me where I have to be and what needs to get done. So currently I keep my weeks in this custom Vanderspec cover in Janet Leather Brown. I found mine pre-loved at a very good price because it already came with some stains and marks on it, but honestly I do not mind at all. I think it's very charming, and also I like to keep my planner in a cover because then it can double as a wallet as well. So opening it up, I try to make this short, but currently I keep a trading card of one of my favorite characters from my favorite anime in here, and then on the back I just have a sticky note with some daily tasks. I keep a Polaroid of my boyfriend and I, some paper that I just use for scratch notes. This was actually a failed attempt at printing out mini 5 inserts, but I didn't want them to go to waste, so I just have them in here now. And then on top of it, I just keep some random stuff that I can use as bookmarks. I work primarily with books, so there are always multiple ones open on my desk, and it's very nice to have something to put in between the pages while I'm taking notes. And then in the back, I usually keep my cards in here, but I took them out for now, as well as the supplemental notebook, which I use for work notes. Other than that, I just keep my stencil in here from Hobonichi, some random sticky notes for quick access, and I use a fountain pen in here, but it switches around all the time, so I'm not very attached to this specific one. But this one is from the Sailor Shikiori line. And when you open up the actual planner, I currently have a picture of the famous unicorn tapestries in here, which I was commonplacing about back in August when the Hobonichi lineup preview was happening. And this picture actually inspired me to get the antique green cover, so I thought it was only fitting to put it in here for now. And also, I decided that 2026 will be the year where I fully embrace my niche interest in the Middle Ages, which is also why I keep this one in here. It's a bookmark that a friend of mine made for me as just a gift. It's some depictions of animals from a book from the 1300s. And yeah, there are just a few things in the world that make me as happy as animal depictions from the Middle Ages. So I keep it in here, as well as just another Polaroid and some random scrap notes from the aforementioned note pages, and the 3.5mm dot stickers from Hobonichi. Then on the very first page, I usually keep a schedule, but I took it out and replaced it with an empty one for now. And then next spread is the year at a glance, which I usually use to track doctor's appointments. If you happen to know Hobonichi products, then you will know that you usually get a previous year as well as a next year view as well. So I found that it was kind of helpful to see when my last, say, dentist appointment was from the previous year. And don't worry, I go to the doctor. I just haven't filled it out yet. And then on top of it, I just have a note page, which I took out of this thingy here, my commonplace book, because I didn't know where to put it yet, but I wanted to keep it in my planner, so I just clipped it in for now. It's a small list of things I can and can't control, as well as some stuff I can do whenever I feel overwhelmed or anxious or just stressed. I struggle with mental health quite a lot, so it is kind of nice to remind myself of this stuff, because when I'm in a very anxious state, I often can't think clear anymore. And Yeah, I already promised over on Instagram to film a video on how my mental health affects my planning and how I approach planning and journaling as somebody with an anxiety disorder. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. And also, if you're not interested in that, also let me know, because if everyone says no, we don't want to listen to that, then I just scrap that idea. So yeah, the next page is the yearly index, and I use this to track all my activities. I am a very active person and I do lots of different types of activities as well. I am a dancer, but I also do aerial arts and circus disciplines, so I just color coded in all my main sports, and I will add a corresponding dot to the day whenever I trained in that particular discipline. And I also add an X on the right hand side whenever I do a dedicated stretching session. And for the dots, I use the 3.5 millimeter dot stickers from Hobonichi, which they released this year. And there are many days where I teach or take multiple classes in a row, so I will add multiple dots so that each dot represents one session, so to say, and I aim for a maximum of 7 dots per week because I am currently suffering from a wrist injury and it's not fun. I am not allowed to draw or journal and it breaks my heart. And obviously I can't do any heavy aerial sports right now either, so I definitely need to take a step back and focus on recovery, so no more than 7 dots per week. And following that, we get into the monthly spreads, which is where I put in all my events and appointments whenever they come in, as well as holidays, birthdays, appointments. I also add in birthdays of my favorite fictional characters if they have any, by the way. I think it's very fun. And in the sidebar, I usually don't add anything in particular, but when I have a very busy project to plan, I usually just write down the weekly task I have to do for that project. At the bottom, I like to keep a reading list for the month, as well as some projects and goals. I use that term kind of loosely. For me, goals can mean anything from like finishing a big project to watch a series. So yeah, and then I also reserve a space for to-dos. I usually don't put in to-dos on my monthlies. I like to put them directly in the weeklies, but every now and then there is something where I just don't know where to put it yet, and that's what this space is for. And as you can see, I usually don't decorate my pages, and if I do, I usually do it after the month is already over, so it doesn't interfere with my writing. At the dance studio where I work, I also tend to stand in for other people who got injured, so I often get some appointments at the very last minute. So I prefer to keep this reserved for all my appointments, and after the fact I can actually decorate it. Though I historically have never decorated much, but this year I kind of want to explore this more because I have a lot of stickers that are unused and I kind of want to use them up. And then the next section is the weekly section, where I usually keep my pencil board, and I always have some kind of sticky note on here. This one is just a weekly cleaning list for the month of December, because that way I feel like it's more in my face, so I can't forget. And then for the same reason, I keep another sticky note for just my quarterly goals on here as well. And this is how my weekly layout looks. I think it's a pretty common layout that many people use. I just split the left-hand side into 2 columns with the pre-printed markings, and then add my appointments on the left-hand side. And I also do some very light version of color coding. So I sometimes add appointments in pencil when they affect me in one way or another, but I'm not the one who has to take action. For example, if my boyfriend has to work in late, so I know that I have to cook later, or if a friend of mine has a job interview and I want to remember to write them, stuff like that. And then on the right-hand side, I just add tasks that I already know they have to be done on a specific day. If not, I will add them to the master task list on the right-hand side. But I also add in stuff in here after the fact, just to track stuff that I want to remember. Most of the times it's stuff like symptoms or stuff that I managed to get done even though it wasn't on the to-do list. And sometimes it's also just notes like left the house today, so yay. Also a very small detail, I don't think the camera will pick it up, but I actually added in pencil the week number of my seasonal type of planning. I usually divide a year into 4 quarters with 13 weeks each. So I write in quarter 1, week 1, quarter 1, week 2, and so on, just to give me a little bit of a better overview. And then on the right page, on the inner column, I just track my meals, and I usually highlight all my treat meals, so I don't end up eating treats only, which definitely happened in the past before. And then on the top, I reserve a spot for priorities or weekly goals, then add a small habit tracker to focus on this week's priorities. And again, I just have a master task list. I sometimes also like to track my stretching in here because I try to avoid stretching the same muscle twice in a row, but yeah, I'm not completely sure if this will stay. So moving to the last weekly spread, I actually use this to map out my goals. I just happened to have 7 different categories I wanted to work on, so it kind of fit in perfectly. And also I just usually don't use the last week anyway. And yeah, no big plans for next year. I try to be very gentle. It's no plans for world domination or stuff like that. It's just like eat more healthy, stretch a little bit more, use up your stickers, stuff like that. And then on the right hand side, I tipped in a mood board, which turned out quite dark. And then on top of it, I currently have a sticky note with all the stuff I want to track corresponding to my goals and where I want to track that in my planner. And then in the back, I just have a written out vision board with some prompts. And my favorite one is the last one, which asks, how do you want to look? And I answered, I want to look as chill and relaxed as this capybara. So just to give you a general idea of the vibe I'm going for next year. And then this page I just reserved for seasonal highlights. Yeah. Then this year we get a 365 checkoff list in the Japanese version as well, so very excited for that. I just check it off whenever I'm using the planner just to get an instant dopamine hit. And then I added in a 2026 bingo card just for fun. From here we go into the notes pages, which are very much inspired by how Lindsay Scribbles uses her Hobonichi Weeks. If you don't know, she usually sets up some annual trackers and collections at the front, and then she continues to daily log and adds in stuff as and when she needs it. And I do pretty much the same thing. The only difference is that I've split my collections into 2 sections. One is in the front, and then there's another section in the back. And the reason for that is that there are a couple of things or spreads that I want my planner to remind me to see and check on a daily or at least regular basis. And then there are other lists and trackers that I either really only need to update whenever I actively have to think about that stuff, or for some reason or another can cause me mental strain to see on very bad mental health days. So it just helps me to protect myself from unnecessary stress, and it also makes the daily review process a little bit less overwhelming because I just can't ignore the back pages. So that being said, the first spread is a place for book and media recommendations. I work in the field of cultural studies, so I constantly hear about new and interesting books, movies, games, and stuff like that. So I hope 2 pages will be sufficient. And then after that, I keep my reading log. It's super simple. I just have 2 columns. One is for the books that I've actually read. I usually do not rate my books or count them, so that is more than enough space for me. And then the second column is for new books in, because I try to only get in new books when I finished one before. So I hope that this list stays longer than this one. And then I keep a sticky note on here for library books, because I've only recently gotten into the habit of borrowing fiction from our library instead of just using it for research. And I really want to build a habit of not buying books anymore. And then on the right-hand side, I just keep a Conan reading log. If you don't know, Detective Conan is a very long-running manga series. There are currently over 100 volumes, and I am on an epic reread, so yeah, I just wanted to track the date, the number of the volume, and then the most memorable case of that particular volume. And then next I have my spending log and fun money tracker. So I just use a years in pixels type of spread, and I use some symbols to track different categories that I spend my money on. So it's a rectangular for stationery, a star for games, a triangle for clothing, heart for books or media, a nail polish bottle for, well, nail polish, and a circle for my dance related stuff. And I just put the symbol in the corresponding day and put it in parentheses when it's a replacement purchase. Say, for example, I run out of sketch paper or ink, just this kind of stuff. And then this should correspond with my fun money / package tracker, where I just track the date, the description of the item, the amount, and then if it's shipped or received, if it's a parcel that I'm waiting on. I don't really have a clearly defined goal tied to my spending habits for the next year, but I just kind of want to be mindful of it. So this is just here to mostly keep me accountable. And then next I have a combined wish list and gift ideas spread on 2 pages. I just write down the name if it's a gift idea, or leave it blank if it's a wish list item, a description, the amount, and then whether or not I've got it, and I will cross it out if it's no longer relevant. Then down below I just have a small sticky note with some prompts to ask me before I put anything onto my wish list, just stuff like, will I use it regularly, will it add value to my life, stuff like that. So just to keep a little reminder of that stuff. And that's pretty much it for my daily trackers and lists. Then we go directly into my monthly habit tracker, which is tabbed off with like this bright pink tab. I also use like these Midori clips that everyone uses, but I found that it's not obnoxious enough for me. So I just want to be really reminded to come in here on a daily basis. So that's why it's the pink one. And yeah, just a very simple habit tracker. I track stuff I want to do or establish on a daily basis. Down below, I keep some stuff that I do on a semi-regular basis, like drawing. I know that I will not draw every day, but I kind of want to see how often I do it, as well as like when I paint my nails, stuff like that. And then down below, I just track my mood and my energy with a line or a dotted line. And then over here, I just have a small calendar where I wanted to track all the stuff that is kind of happening irregularly, like for example, when we have takeout or when I have a spa day, that type of stuff. And on this side, I usually keep everything that I have on my sticky note on here. So I will probably just stick it in once I'm finished with it. And that is it. So that's my daily pages now. And again, very much inspired by Lindsay Scribbles. I just add my bullet on the delineating line that is already pre-printed on the pages, and I add some signifiers or like just the time where I have to attend to an appointment, so it stands out a little bit more. So yeah, nothing really too surprising. I sometimes also tag a whole day with a bigger signifier, just when I have to find stuff like medical information or stuff. But yeah, so that is that. And then looking in the back, there are some spreads in the back that I really want to use. So this is a monthly highlight spread or yearly highlight spread, I guess. And I just want to use it as intended pretty much. So this one is for delicious food. This one is for new people I've met, which I will probably use to track interesting fictional characters, because I am an introvert and I do not meet a lot of people. Interesting stuff that happened, and then you have a free space where I will probably just track small wins throughout the year. Then we have the My 100 page, which I always use just as a media log. I also color code this stuff, so yellow for games, green for series, blue for movies, and then a pink for other things. And I just add in everything that is not really a book because I keep book tracker separately, but it's always interesting for me looking back at the year to see what kind of media I was consuming. even though this will probably be kind of redundant because I also plan on using a second weeks as a media journal, but I kind of wanted to have this in my main planner as well. So that's that. And then on the back, I just keep another one of my scrap papers, which was originally part of my commonplace. But I just stuck it in here for now. It's just a cleaning schedule. And then I have my when did I last list in here. It's mostly just stuff that I have to do once or twice a year, or maybe quarterly, on a quarterly basis. I usually don't track this stuff during the year, really, so I don't reference this. It's more so just a list for my future me when I'm in my next planner and I don't really have the memory of all my pages anymore, so this is just a quick reference for that. And then I have a future me problems list. It's very simple, just 2 columns adding in stuff that gets migrated out of my monthly, weekly, or daily plans. A week meal idea list. At the top, I just have some general ideas, and then down below, just some seasonal stuff. And then I have a health log, which is inspired by a spread I saw Alison from Little Coco Studio set up in her Midori Hibino as well. It's basically just a year-long tracker for my cycle as well as my physical symptoms, my mental health, and then a sleep and energy tracker. So the way I've set it up, it's pretty simple. I just have 3 years in pixels type of spreads next to each other with the first letter of the month across and then just the days of the month down. And this is one of the more scarier spreads I was referring to before. When I'm in a bad mental state, thinking about my health doesn't help. It just stresses me out. And so I don't plan on using this on a regular basis. Rather, I just try to collect all the information I was tracking in my weekly or monthly pages and put them in here when I'm in a good mood. So just to see and reflect upon the correlations that happened between these 3 categories. And I also have a space for notes, just to note down, for example, when I was injured or stuff like that, because that greatly affects like my mental health and as well as my sleep. And then lastly, for now, I just keep a body log. This is just information that my smartwatch tracks automatically, but I just want to download the information onto paper because I don't want to lose that stuff. So I just try to track my monthly averages for steps, sleep, heart rate zone 1 to 3, heart rate zone 4 to 5, and then my body measurements. And then on top of it, I try to track my weekly average weight. And again, this is one of those types of spreads that can cause me a little bit of stress on very bad days, but I still find it very useful information to have, especially like the body measurements, just because I basically exclusively shop online, and then keeping up with my health log just to see if I'm overworking my body again. And yeah, that brings us to the end of my Hobonichi Weeks setup. I am very excited to use this. Right now, I think it looks still very neat, but I try to approach this more like something that I will dispose at the end of the year, so I hope that it will mess up a little bit. Now, I probably will still keep it anyway, but the point is that I just don't want to try to be too precious about it and worry about how it ends up looking. I just want to have fun using it. Yeah, but let me know if you have any questions down below. And then if you made it this long, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.